Alright, hello everyone. In this video will be 40k thoughts, and more specifically, it's going to be my thoughts and some experiences with Infiltrator keyworded units. Now, also, just as an aside, I don't have a whole lot of experience using Infiltrator keyworded units, and I have some experience, or a good chunk of experience, dealing with units that have the keyword, but I hope you guys enjoy. Now, in terms of just some quick thoughts on the Infiltrator units, uh, you know, they're useful at gaining early board control. From my experience, having used scouts and infiltrators, or scout squads and infiltrator squads, they can definitely be invaluable with early board control. Right, being able to, in deployment, infiltrate a unit onto a mid board objective, that's really nice. They also can be very useful with screening out early game charges, or trying to prevent your opponent from infiltrating. Now, the issue with infiltrating, with being able to do that, is it can be countered by your enemy unit's deployment if they have any infiltrating units. So if you're playing against Emperor's Children and they have Tormentors, those guys can infiltrate. Those guys can infiltrate up the board, and they already have sticky objectives, so they can be kind of annoying and very quickly get onto the mid board. In terms of action monkeys or using them for secondary missions, they're definitely they are very useful, right? On average, from what I've seen with my research into the different units, and from what I personally have fielded and dealt with, they are cheap. They are on average pretty cheap to field for early game board control, and for also completing certain secondary missions like establish locus, sabotage, and certain primary missions that require a unit to do an action. And maybe you have some assault intercessors or infractors that are your main powerhouse for dealing with stuff, but okay, you have your tormentors, or you have your scouts or infiltrators that can just kind of fiddle around and do stuff. And to the point of infiltrator keyword units being cheap, it is also very faction dependent, and that's true with any keyworded unit, like with deep strike units or scouts X units. They can't. There could be really cheap units, but it is very dependent on what faction you're playing, and I guess also what you're looking to get out of them, besides the ability to infiltrate up the board and get early board objective control in early on in the game, or screening out early game charges from armies like the World Eaters, or even the Emperor's Children. Now, in terms of my experiences playing with or playing against armies with infiltrate or infiltrator units, I've used excuse me, sorry. I use 2 units of 5 scout squads in my Black Templars army. That's more of a recent addition. I've started messing around with them. In the past, I've experimented with using infiltrators, but I never used them to infiltrate up the board. They were always just a home field sitter. And then I've also experimented with a lieutenant of combi weapon, and he was all right, but he just wasn't enough for me. So that's where this current iteration for my army is, with 2 units of 5 scout squads. In terms of playing against these units, or playing against armies with infiltrate units, in my game against the Tau Empire a couple months ago, was stealth battle suits. This was at the time when they were fielded in units of, I think, 3 to 6, and there were 2 units of 3. It's been a minute, it's been a while, but I know of more recent changes. Those have been changed to units of 5 to 10, thanks to the new kill team box, if I'm not mistaken. More recently, in an Emperor's Children game where I was playing Black Templars, I went up against 3 units of 5 Tormentors, where 2 of the units infiltrated onto the midfield, and 1 sat on my opponent's home objective. In most of my games, or actually not most, in all of my games against the Tyranids, I've always dealt with one unit of 6 von Ryan's Leapers and 1 Lictor, And my friend Jack, who is the my resident Tyranids player in our group, he always tries to have the lictor assassinate one of my characters whenever he's done any shenanigans with it. He's always trying to be funny with it. He always manages to just do a little bit of damage to Marnius Calgar way back when in the past, or a Chaos Sorcerer, and then they just get clapped back. And then against Necrons, against my friend Brody, our resident Necron player, it was one unit of 10 flayed ones, and I very quickly realized just how absolutely irritating it is to table that. It's very hard, it's very difficult to completely wipe that unit of 10 flayed ones, unless you just have like overwhelming firepower. And yeah, but overall, like, not, I wouldn't say bad experiences with infiltrator units and dealing with them. For the most part, they've been annoying. They've been, in some cases, difficult to shift. In other cases, I thought they were a threat, and then they just kind of didn't amount to anything. Like in the case of the Lictor for my friend Jack, or the stealth battle suits in the game against the Tau I played against. It's been hit or miss, but they've generally done pretty well with doing secondary missions, or just being annoying, being out of the way, and hard to really get to and get at. But with that, guys, want to thank you all for watching. I didn't finish the first bullet point here, but what kind of experiences have you had with infiltrators? Have you had good experiences with infiltrating a unit up the board and having it screen out early, or just hide around and do secondaries like with a combi lieutenant? If you had bad experiences with them, has your plan with whatever infiltrating unit not gone well, or have you been completely countered by your opponent and just you were unable to? Feel free to let me know in the comments those kind of experiences. Like always, feel free to let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. Feel free to like the video, share it, and subscribe. You do not have to if you do not want to. It's perfectly fine. If you dislike this and you hate the sound of my voice, or you hate the way I look, or this style of content, I get it. It's not for everyone. But with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful time wherever you may find yourself, whether you're at work, at school, or you're on your way home from either of those to chill at home. And if things aren't going well, or things have been going really badly lately, I hope they can turn around. Hope they can get better. But until the next time, guys, I'll see you next time. Peace.